Daily podcast. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin. I'll be taking you guys through the latest in the world of mixed martial arts. Summer's almost done, guys. Can't believe it. August 21st. Unreal. The summer's really gone by quick. Anyways, guys, you guys can follow me on Twitter at MMAOB. This podcast is, of course, available at MMAOddsbreaker.com. Go to our YouTube channel, like, share, comment, subscribe, tell your friends about it. Also, check me out at bjpenn.com and MMARankings.net. It's a UFC-less week, but there's still a lot to talk about. Last night, Contender Series, a couple fight announcements. Let's get right into it. So, Contender Series took place last night, of course, at the UFC Apex, as always. One of the weaker cards, I think, of the season. Only one contract was awarded by Dana White. I think he could have given more, but I'll talk about that in a second. Overall, though, I think it was one of the weaker cards. So let's just talk about the card. I'm going to start with the bottom and work my way up. First fight of the night, Ricky Steele wins a split decision over Phil Caracappa. And I said in the podcast yesterday, this is going to be an extremely close fight. I leaned slightly towards Ricky Steele, 51%. That's what I said. And he won a splitter. I think most people thought he won 2 rounds to 1, but Caracappa definitely put up a good fight. It was a close fight. And Dana White passed on Ricky Steele, and I just don't get it. I mean, this guy is definitely ready for the UFC, and Dana's comment was he's too old now, needs to be more consistent as a fought while he's 31. Kept saying he's 31. So why was he on the show then? That's my question. Why was he on the show if he didn't really have a chance to get a contract? Doesn't really make sense to me. I think this guy is definitely ready for the UFC. He looked pretty good in this fight. He won his last fight in the Ultimate Fighter. He's undefeated at 6-0. If you include the Ultimate Fighter, 7-0. He probably should have got a contract. The fight wasn't great. It was good. It was a good fight. It wasn't great, but still, he got the job done. And considering his prior experience in the Ultimate Fighter, I really thought he was going to get a deal. So it's not the worst non-contract Dana handed out, but I think he should have given one out to this guy. Caracappa will be back. He's a pretty good prospect, but I think Steele probably should have got a deal. Next up, Mallory Martin defeats Nicole DeSegni via unanimous decision. Definitely a clear decision for Martin. I think everyone thought she was going to win this fight. She got the job done. She didn't get a contract either, though, which in some ways is surprising because strawweight's not the strongest division, of course, but at the same time, it wasn't a great fight. She did show some good takedown skills for sure. She got DeSegni down when she needed to, but I think this showed more about DeSegni's weaknesses. Her striking was absolutely awful to watch, winging punches, and Martin got clipped with a lot of those punches, and Dana White said he was concerned about that. He didn't like that. Thinks she needs more experience. I agree. I think back to Invicta for Martin, get a couple more wins, get a couple finishes. And she had gotten a couple finishes, but not on the big stage. This was her chance to really show Dana White, I belong in the UFC. I can finish these fighters, and she won a decision against a fighter she was very overmatched against. So, or DeSegni was overmatched fighting Martin, I should say. Again, she could have been given a deal, but I don't think it was the worst non-contract given out. She should probably get another fight in Invicta, though. That's a UFC entity, kind of. So keep her in Invicta. Don't let her go to Bellator. I think she does have some potential, but at the same time, you got to finish your fights. I mean, we've talked about this all season, and you don't finish, you don't have this great of a chance to get a contract. Now, someone who did finish the fight was Steve Garcia, and he put on an absolute clinic against Desmond Torres. This, besides one other guy I'll talk about in a second, this was maybe the performance of the night. I was really impressed by Steve Garcia in this fight. His striking was phenomenal. This is the same guy that was in Bellator that lost to Joe Gordon and had a couple wins against guys like Kim Moy and Sean Bunch. So I know who he is. I was definitely familiar with him, but I've never seen him look this good. He's actually won 2 straight fights now by punches. So guy's striking is improving. He would have been given a deal, but he missed weight. So I can't fault Dana for not giving him a deal here. He said, you missed weight by 3 pounds or whatever it was, and he said he wants this guy to move to 145, and I get it, but at the same time, though, he looked amazing. So if I'm the UFC, I'm definitely considering this guy for a short notice fight in the UFC. Even though he missed weight, he looked fantastic. And really, I wouldn't want to let Bellator get him back. I think this he's 27 now. He's in the prime of his career. I think he's really good. And I'd like to see him in the UFC, actually. So, yes, the weight miss is terrible. I don't condone missing weight, of course. And it cost this guy his opportunity to get in the UFC. But I do think that, once clear heads prevail, you might see this guy in the octagon a short notice fight, or possibly back in the Contender Series next year. I don't know, but I think the UFC would be making a mistake if they let him go to another promotion. I think this guy had a fantastic performance. His striking is clearly really good. He's got a lot of power, and I'd like to see him in the octagon one day. Next up, light heavyweight bout between Jamal Pokes and Marcus Bergago. Man, that guy Bergago has a hell of a freaking chin. I mean, he took some shots in this fight. I thought he had a good chance to win, but no, Pokes looked good. I mean, his wrestling was really dominant in this fight. He threw everything at this guy, Bergado, and that guy just absorbed every shot he could. It was crazy. His chin held up really well. I definitely think Pogues is a good prospect, 23 years old. Dana White passed on him. I'm not going to say it was a mistake. Again, he got his chance to perform in front of Dana White and only one decision. But that guy was super tough. I think that a lot of guys couldn't have finished him. He showed a good chin in this fight. It's another instance of, are you going to let this guy go to another promotion like Bellator or something where he used to fight? It's not the worst non-contract given out. I just don't like the reasoning. And Dana White said he's too young. Why was he on the show? If you think he was too young, why did you sign him to a deal to put him on the show? And in my opinion, it's just the UFC wanting to get cheap labor of these guys. They get so many people watching the Contender Series. They're paying these guys $5,000, and they're not signing the deals after they put on good fights and just saying that they're too young or too old. In the case of Ricky Steele, it's like he's too old. But Pogues is too young. Martin's too young. Garcia missed weight. Like, Dana had an excuse for all these fighters not to get deals. I think it's also something to do with the fact that they've given out so many deals this season. They've given out a ton of contracts. They have to clear space in the roster now. The matchmakers were probably telling Dana, we can't get these guys fights. You got to be careful how many contracts to give it out. And Dana has been the last couple of shows. So I think Pogues could have been taken, but at the same time, he has some stuff to work on for sure. I think back to Bellator for this guy. I think Bellator is going to pick him up, and I think that's a good sign for them if they do. Main event of the evening, the only guy who got a contract, Phil Rowe knocks out Edmund Shabazian in the third round. Great performance by Rowe. Shabazian looked good early on, but he really got tired out, and Rowe just kept pushing on the pressure, and man, his striking looked really good, and that finish was nasty. I mean, the second round even, I thought Shabazian was going to get finished, and Rowe finishes it really early in the third. So Rowe got signed to the UFC. Great idea by Dana to bring this guy in. I mean, this guy's obviously good, 29 years old, 7-2 record. He's on a 6-fight win streak. He's clearly really good. 7-fight win streak, excuse me. He lost the first 2 fights of his career and won 7 straight fights since then. So I think there's a few things I want to say here. So first off, he finished his fight, and this is further proof. You finish your fights, you're probably going to get signed after the show. And second off, it's just don't give up on your dreams. I mean, this guy lost the first 2 fights of his career in 2014 and 2015. And he could have been like, you know what, this is not the sport for me. I can't do this. And even his amateur career, I'm looking at right now, there's 3-3. So this guy had struggles like in his early career, but man, he looked good in this fight. So good signing here by Dana White, bringing in Phil Rowe. I'm excited to see him in the welterweight division. I agree with this one. But again, it's just really strange how Dana always has these excuses for not bringing guys in to the UFC. There's always a reason why I can't. Too young, too old. Judges disagreed. I disagree with the judges. Very strange. I think a lot of people, from what I saw last night, are souring a bit on the show, saying, "What's the point of the show now?" Like, it's a little confusing. What's the point of this? For me, again, it's UFC getting cheap labor. They put on a good show for sure. The production's cheap though, and they don't pay the fighters much money, and they get, according to Dana, sometimes millions of views. So the UFC is doing really well with this, but I think the fighters are kind of getting screwed in a way. At the same time, though, you gotta finish your fights. You gotta make weight, and if you do, you have a better chance to be put into the UFC than if you don't. In the case of guys like Pogues and Steele and Martin, Girl and Martin, obviously, they didn't finish their fights. So that's why he passed. And Garcia missed weight. So if he said that was the reason, like he didn't finish his fight, I think people would be okay with that. But when you say, they're too young or too old, it's kind of weird. It's just not like why have him on the show in the first place though if you knew you were going to say that after the fight. It is what it is. Afterwards, Dana went to his post-fight scrum, as always, with the media in Las Vegas, and he talked about a few different topics. One was Henry Cejudo, and he said that he wants Cejudo to fight Joseph Benavidez next in the flyweight division, defend that flyweight belt. And it's hard to disagree with that. That flyweight belt needs to be defended, hasn't been defended, obviously, in a long time now. He should be fighting Joseph Benavidez next. So I think that fight makes a lot of sense. And then you can figure out the rest of the 135 division with Sterling. You got Edgar coming in the division now. You have and you have Faber back in town. Corey Sandhagen, all these guys. So 135 needs to get sorted out. And in the meantime, Cejudo should fight Benavidez. Dana says Cejudo's still hurt. He says maybe January for the fight. So that makes sense. Benavidez, I think, fought in June against Formiga, if I'm not mistaken. So 6 months, that's pretty standard. And Cejudo fought in June as well at UFC 238. So 6 months between fights is pretty standard for champions and for title challengers. So I think it makes a lot of sense. A couple other things Dana said. He said that Jose Aldo was in the news the other day saying that he wants to go to 35 and fight Cejudo. Dana said he has talked to Jose Aldo, but he doesn't think Jose Aldo can make 135, and he says that's not going to happen. So we'll see. I mean, we've seen those videos back in the day, back at UFC Toronto, UFC 129, the video of Aldo in the bathtub struggling to cut weight. So I don't know if he can make 135. It'd be cool if he could, because the fight with Cejudo would be great at 135. But I think I'm actually might side with Dana here in saying that he's too big for the division. What else did he talk about? He's also said that he's in discussions, he said, early on with Masvidal and Diaz, but he did not elaborate on it. I think that fight's going to be announced. The media wants it, the fans want it, the fighters want it. Dana likes the fight. It makes too much sense. You have to do that fight. And he also said that Anthony Pettis did not break his foot. And I saw that Alexander Lee at MMA Fighting also did an article today talking to Duke Rufus, and Duke confirmed that he did not break his foot, Pettis, and he will be back. He wants to fight at the end of 2019, which is crazy, but that guy's always getting hurt in his fights. Even if he didn't break anything, he's always getting hurt. So we'll see what happens with Pettis. But yeah, Cejudo versus Benavidez and Diaz versus Masvidal seem pretty likely. And one fight that Dana did actually confirm last night was Ben Askren versus Demian Maia, and this is the main event of UFC Singapore, and it's what I'm going to get into the fight announcements part of the show. So yes, Ben Askren will be fighting Demian Maia, and I love this fight. I mean, it's a great matchup. Ben Askren, one of the best wrestlers, if not the best wrestler in this division. 19-1 and 1 no contest record. He's only 1-1 in the UFC. He won against Bobby Lawler, lost to Masvidal, but I still consider Ben one of the top guys in the division. And Demian Maia is obviously great. 41 years old now, but still one of the best. He beat Anthony Rocco Martin and Lyman Good in his last 2 fights. He's looked fantastic this year after that 3-fight losing streak. He also has wins over – he has a win over Masvidal, so he's got some good wins in his career. I think Maia's great. This should be an awesome fight. Really good grappling in this matchup. I really don't know who's going to win. I guess I kind of favor Askren, but, man, after that last fight, I mean, maybe he's coming back too soon. It's hard to say. But either way, I am looking forward to this matchup. I think it's a really good fight. It could be boring to casual fans, but this is not a show for casual fans. It's in Singapore. I do think they respect the grappling a bit more. Ben Askren has fought in Singapore for 1 championship. Also, I think it's on Fight Pass in the early morning, right? So it's not for casual fans. This is for hardcore fans, and I think hardcore fans will appreciate this matchup, and I like this fight. So Askren versus Maia, I think it's a great main event, and I think it could actually go 5 rounds, so I like the fact it is the main event. UFC Tampa gets a featherweight fight between Cub Swanson and Kron Gracie. Another, I think, interesting fight here. Cub Swanson is a guy I'm very sour on right now. He's 25-11 in his career, but he's on a 4-fight losing streak. He has not looked good in his last 4. At the same time, though, he lost to Ortega, Edgar, McCann, and Burgos. So he lost to really good fighters, just hasn't looked good. It's been a while since we've seen a really complete version of Cub Swanson. I think he's on a massive downside in his career. Takes on Kron Gracie, who obviously is one of the top prospects at 145 right now. Kron's 5-0. He beat Alex Caceres in his UFC debut earlier this year after a 3-year layoff. So he's fantastic. I think his ground game is amazing, but he's not tested against high-level guys. Caceres is not a high-level guy. He did beat Kawajiri in Ryzen. That was a good win. But again, Cub Swanson is a pretty good fighter and very experienced. So I do favor Kron Gracie, though, just because the submission prowess that he has is ridiculous. And Cub's been submitted many times in his career. But Cub is clearly the more experienced guy, and he does have a chance to win this fight. So it's a good matchup. I like it. But for Cub Swanson, I mean, this is a must-win fight. 4 straight losses. Like, the only guy I could think in the roster with that many losses right now is BJ Penn. He keeps getting fights. It's BJ, I guess. But Cub Swanson, I don't know if he holds that much club. If he loses 5 straight, I would imagine UFC lets him go. And finally, one other fight has been announced for UFC Boston. Molly McCann is coming back to fight Deanna Belbita, who I believe is making her UFC debut here. Molly McCann, let me pull her out here. You know what? She's actually looked pretty good in the UFC, surprisingly good. She's 19 in her career, and she's 1-2 in the UFC. She lost to Jillian Robertson in her debut. Since then, has won back-to-back fights against Priscilla Cachoeira and Ariane Lipsky. She looked really good against Lipsky. It was a surprising win. I'm a little surprised she's getting a UFC newcomer after 2 straight wins. You'd think she would have got someone ranked. I think McCann's a little underrated in this division, and she takes on Belbita here, who is 11-4 record. She's from Romania. She's 23 years old. She's on a 2-fight win streak herself. She has fought actually Ariane Lipsky in KSW. She lost to her. And I'm just seeing if she's fought anyone else that I know of. Christina Sanchu, she lost to her as well. She was in the UFC a little while ago. She didn't do very well in the UFC. And other than that, she hasn't fought anyone notable. And she hasn't fought since last August. So kind of crazy. This girl hasn't fought in a while. She's taking on Molly McCann. You got to like Molly McCann in this fight. And the one other thing I want to mention is Bellator has decided to sign a mystery fighter. They have posted like a silhouette of a guy with a lot of hair in his chest and back, very strong looking guy. People are wondering who it is. I don't know who it is. I think a lot of people have said it's Gabriel Gonzaga. That does kind of make sense, but at the same time, it's weird that they're like, hey, prominent international athlete. Okay, I agree. Gonzaga, he's got a name, obviously. He's been around a while. But at the same time, though, like Gonzaga hasn't fought. Well, he fought Alexander Emelianenko last year. I didn't remember that. But he hasn't fought a high-level guy in 3 years since he fought Lewis in the UFC, Derek Lewis, in 2016. I wouldn't say he's a prominent international athlete. And also, it's kind of weird that they're like getting the Bellator Europe guy to talk about it. I mean, this guy's from Brazil, obviously. So maybe it's not Gonzaga. If it is, I mean, prominent international athlete, I definitely don't agree with that assessment. But I can't think of who else it would be. I looked at the picture, I thought maybe Mariusz Pudzianowski. A lot of people were saying that, but Pudzianowski doesn't have hair on his chest or his back. So don't think it's Puds. I think Gonzaga is the guy. I mean, if you look at the guy's stomach, it does look like Gonzaga's. Just take a look at the pictures. It looks very similar. So we'll see who it is, but it's I don't know. Like, I'm not sure what I think about this tease. I think they should have just announced it. Like, if it's going to be Gonzaga, people are going to be like, why was it such a big deal? You're going to announce a mystery fighter. Kind of weird. Anyways, that's what I was going to say about that. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Bellator. They'll probably announce that fighter soon. So, anyways, I think that's it for today, guys. Obviously, Contender series I talked about and the fight announcement. So that's about it. Guys, follow me on Twitter at MMAOB. This podcast is available at MMAOddsbreaker.com. Go to our YouTube channel, like, share, subscribe, comment, tell your friends about it. Check me out at bjpen.com, MMARays.net. Like I said, guys, no UFC this weekend. There's a Bellator, though. I will be breaking down that card either tomorrow or Friday, whenever the odds come out. Hopefully tomorrow, so I can get it done early. But if not, I'll be doing it Friday. Looking forward to that card, kind of. There's some good fights on it, but we'll see what happens. Guys, have a great weekend, or a great day, excuse me, and I'll be back tomorrow.